Hi, this episode is mostly about my activities in the University of Kerala Department of Geology in the year 1977. That is the year of my rejoining. For one thing, in the month of January or February, Professor Menon sir wanted me to join him because on a trip, a shorter trip to the city, and to meet Professor C. Karnakaran, no more now, in the planning board, Trivandrum, in the planning board office. Professor Karnakaran those days was a member of the planning board, a technical member. In fact, there is a relationship, a student-teacher relationship between Karnakaran and Menon sir. After completing a MSc from BHU, Karnakaran sir joined as a demonstrator in the Presidency College in Madras, where Menon sir studied for a BSc degree program. And in very short time, before I think probably Menon sir graduated with a BSc degree, Karnakaran sir shifted over to Andhra University Voltaire as a lecturer. And from there on, to GSI and so on and so forth. But when Karnakaran sir retired from the Geological Survey of India, then he had a short assignment for 2 years in the Oil and Natural Gas Commission as a consultant, and was stationed in Mumbai or Bombay those days. So I have heard Karnakaran sir saying that he was the man who initiated purchase of some units in a big flat complex on behalf of ONGC for some kind of residence or offices for the officers of the ONGC who are supervising the work in the what is called Bombay High Oil Field. Then at the conclusion of Karnakaran sir's appointment with ONGC, Karnakaran sir applied for what is called a research grant and some kind of allowance for Karnakaran sir himself to write a book on the Indian Ocean. However, Karnakaran sir did not find any suitable place in India to have a seat there and complete this task. So, because Professor Menon was once upon a time a student of Karnakaran in Madras Presidency College, Karnakaran sir contacted Menon sir over the phone and then proposed the idea whether he can be accommodated in the Department of Geology, office space and a stenographer, etc., so that he will launch his book writing project on the Indian Ocean. So naturally, Menon sir would have agreed, and of course, for most of the things, when it comes to some such decisions, Menon sir always would consult Dr. A. Abraham, because both these two people, both of them, they were very long-standing friendship they had between, and because both of them together took a ship over to America during the World War days to go for our conclusion of the World War, to go to USA and study there. So from that day onward, there is some kind of a very chummy relationship. So Professor Abraham said, Menon, invite him and, I will speak to the Vice Chancellor. And those days the Vice Chancellor was R.S. Krishna. And because Professor Abraham had been a long-time member of the the university top administration, either as a member of the syndicate or a dean of the faculty of science, etc. So Professor Menon wrote a note to the vice chancellor and requesting the approval of the proposal to accommodate Karnagaran sir in Trivandrum in the Department of Geology. What happened then was very interesting. When Professor Abraham was appointed as in the planning board, as well as the secretary of officiating secretary of the Science and Technology program in the state of Kerala earlier, Menon sir thought to have Karnagaran sir as technical member of the planning board, remember, only technical member of the planning board, and then Mr. Gopalakrishnan from Thrissur, and an additional secretary was the secretary of the planning board. There are only 3 people, Professor Abraham and Gopalakrishnan, and if Karnagaran accepted the offer, then Karnagaran. So Abraham sir made a proposal to the government that Karnagaran be made a technical member of the state planning board, which the government agreed. And instead of going over to Karivattam, Karnagaran sir landed in Trivandrum and then walked straight into what is called today's planning board. So Karnagaran sir is the natural, the technical member, the only technical member in the Kerala State Planning Board. And those days there was an association under the initiative of Karnagaran sir, which is called the Geoscience and Technology Association. To make the story short, Menon sir took me over to Karnagaran sir in the planning board office just to introduce me to Professor Karnagaran and say that I still remember the comment made by Professor Menon. Karnagaran, this young man, he will be an excellent secretary for our Geoscience and Technology Association of Kerala. So in the general body meeting of the Geoscience and Technology Association of Kerala in the month of March or so, I was elected as secretary unanimously. And I can tell you that late Professor K.P. Ramanathan Nair was the treasurer of the association. So what are the activities of this? Just to keep the lamp burning, what we do is every month there will be a technical talk by a distinguished scientist those days available in Trivandrum or passing through Trivandrum. So I still remember that Dr. A.D. Damodaran, then in the RRL, was invited as for one of the talks, which was held in the library hall of the Geological Survey of India at Palayam. And usually such presentations are held in either in the planning board conference or the Geological Survey of India hall, but not in the Karivattam Geology department, because unfortunately Karivattam is way out in the backwaters of Trivandrum, which most people found very difficult to reach, unless there is a need, the express need to go to Karivattam in order to, enroll a ward to a department of study. So that is about Geoscience and Technology Association, and I continued in that capacity for 2 years. And of course, it had a sad demise because after a while, it's very difficult for any such associations or fellowships to be alive and continue unless there is a support from the audience. Well, it is very hard to find. After all, Thrivikramji is a place where, which is actually, what shall I say, which actually has a very low level crowd of, in terms of numbers only, of scientists and technologists. Okay. Then another thing that happened was in the same year, in the same quarter, the Kerala University Teachers Association held its general body meeting. I attended that meeting, and I was also tipped as the secretary of the new executive committee of the Kerala University Teachers Association. I had earlier a stint of 2 years in the Kerala University Teachers Association, and most of my friends in the association thought, that I will be a better secretary than most. Anyway, for one thing, we had I was instrumental in getting Srikandan Nair sir as the president of the association, and of course there is a vice president. When I was elected as the secretary, Srikandan Nair sir was continuing as the president of the association, whereas the late Puruseri Ramandran was the vice president or working president of the association. So that also was over. But then what had happened was all the teachers, including college teachers and university teachers in Kerala, were having an agitated mind for the government's unpreparedness to grant UGC pay scales to the teachers. So, here and there were sort of a murmur, and finally, on a certain, I think it was in April or so of 1977, after my election and assuming as secretary of the Kutta, Kerala University Teachers Association, there was a meeting held in the what is called the guest house behind the Senate Hall complex. It is an old two-story residential building with several rooms, and that is where the syndicate members used to stay when they come for a meeting, in one of those rooms. And the participants were, let us see, AKGCTA, All Kerala Government College Teachers Association. Professor Sridharan Nair is no more. Then there is a AKPCTA, and I don't remember the name of the president of the association, but K.C. Chako, Professor K.C. Chako, and secretary was Gopalakrishnan of SN College, Kollam. And then Professor C. Setskaria, a member of the sitting member of the syndicate, and the president of the PCTA, as it is called. Then V.K. Vaidyan, later on, who retired from Kerala University Physics Department, then was serving in Calicut University. He was representing the University of Calicut Teachers Association. And Dr. R.M. Pillai, who is also no more, passed away. And then during 77, he was a reader in the CUSAT in the Department of Statistics, but later on shifted over to Kerala University as a professor in the Statistics Department, where the members moved. And then, of course, we had others like Professor R.R.C. Nair, who occasionally came to Trivandrum because he is a member of the finance committee of the university. Member of this finance committee means there will be a Senate member who will be nominated to the finance committee, a very powerful body, a 3-member committee, and R.R.C. Nair is one of those what you call as the firebrand, but very brilliant teacher, very committed teacher, besides being a very active worker, the engine of the AKPCTA, so to speak. So we sat down several sessions, not only once in April, 3 or 4 sessions, and when session concluded, it will be like 10, 11, etc. p.m. at night. Then we will go to Palayam to have something to eat, and then split, go back home. So in one of the meetings, a decision was made. Several decisions were made how to press our demand for the teachers' demand for the what is called implementation of UGC pay scales. And then one item of the decision was that all the teachers on a certain day will wear a black badge and then make a demonstration in the college campus before the festival. That is one thing. Secondly, we will make what is called a P. Maharji, or a memorandum to the government, expressing our concern and expressing the need for granting UGC pay scales, and signed by practically almost all teachers of the universities and colleges. Then the third thing was, on the day of submission of the memorandum, there will be a demonstration and one daytime satyagraha in front of the secretariat. So these were the three items, and before the whole thing was agreed upon, you'll have to sign all these members who are participating. So I, Thrivikramji, me, and R.M. Pillai from Statistics CUSAT and Vaidyan from Calicut sat down in a separate group, as a separate group in a corner of that room, and then decided whether we had to go to the general body of the concerned respective association before signing, or we will sign and then go back and report. So the Vaidyan and R.M. Pillai said, what is there? It is for the benefit of everybody, and we are not excluded in our struggle or in this movement. So let us associate with the AKPCTA or PCTA or AKGCTA in our struggle for realizing the implementation of the University Grants Commission pay scales. So we went back to them, and then of course RRC asked, hey Thrivikramji, what was your decision? I said, we agree to the proposal. We will make a joint action council in which all of us will be members of, all the office bearers of the secretaries of the Universities Teachers Association, that is namely Calicut University, CUSAT in Kerala. Those days there was no Kannur, there was no MG, etc., etc. Then what happened was, in the next we broke off for that day, all this time, etc., were done, fixed. So then I have to go, and each one of the secretaries are, like Vaidyan or R.M. Pillai or I will have to go back to the general body and get their assent for this. Well, we called a meeting, Kerala University Teachers Association called a meeting in the general body in the University Library Hall. And of course, I reported to Puducherry Ramachandran, these are the decisions taken. Then Puducherry just nodded, that's all. He is the working president. And on the day of meeting at 4 o'clock, there was a big crowd of teachers, something like 50 to 60 teachers participated in the general body meeting. We were something like 200 or 190 teachers, but only the active members came in to attend the meeting. And of course, the meeting was called to order. Puducherry Ramachandran, made a brief comment about the purpose of the meeting and wanted the secretary me to report whatever had happened. So I just made a written report and started reading. And by that moment, several of the members were on their feet. They stood up and who gave you the authority or a mandate to, without consulting our association, general body, to go and sign a memorandum of understanding with the other associations of the state, etc., etc. There was a commotion there. I just stood quiet. I felt bad for a while. Then I said, this is the way things will go. And finally, Puducherry Ramachandran very cleverly did one thing. I wanted the members to, be quiet so that the secretary will read his report. And at the conclusion of my reading, Puducherry said, Thrivikramji, secretary, Thrivikramji, you sit. I will address the association. Then what Puducherry did was, Puducherry was apparently siding with the general body for my having signed the memorandum of understanding about the action plan. And for a while, for 4 or 5 minutes, then all the members were very happy. Because the working president is actually sort of ditching the secretary's points of view. And then Puducherry, on a very sober tone, said, well, we have to support the secretary's decision at any rate, because this is going to be a big movement to make the government, move the government to sanction us the pay scales and the benefits of the UGC recommendations. Well, then it was not very noisy, and finally what the general body said, yes, anyway, hereafter, thereafter, no such undertaking will be taken by the secretary without the prior permission of the general body. That was one thing. It was actually a caution to the secretary. But I did not say I am going to resign and run away from the show. No. Then what happened was everybody agreed for wearing a badge. That is one for the satyagraha in front of the secretariat in the satyagraha sidewalk, and also for signing in the memorandum to be submitted to Mr. A.K. Anthony. So that was the end. We submitted all those things, and I will come back with the rest of the story in a different episode.